Do you feel that in a time when we are more connected than ever, we are drifting away from real human connection, especially to ourselves? I do. Hi, I'm Leticia Latino, and I want to invite you to join me and my very inspiring guests in exploring ways to reconnect to your essence, to your definite purpose, to what makes you tick. Are you ready? Hello, everybody, and welcome to a new episode of Back to Basics, Reconnecting to the Essence of You. Today, we welcome Lesley Logan, NCPT certified Pilates powerhouse, habits and mindset coach, and co-founder of onlinepilatesclasses.com, home to the largest catalog of free Pilates tutorials and the only on-demand platform built on accountability and community. A second-generation instructor trained by a direct student of Joseph Pilates, Lesley has taught since 2008, helping thousands around the world and hundreds of fellow teachers teach perfection, take messy action, and reclaim their energy. From global retreats to major media to corporate boardrooms, she's redefining what it means to do life better, one breath, one movement at a time. I love that. Hello, Lesley, and welcome to Back to Basics.
Oh, thank you so much for having me here, Leticia. I'm excited to talk with you. It's going to be fun.
Yes, I agree. And I know, and we'll touch upon you're a podcast, fellow podcast host. So we'll talk a little bit more about, so you're an expert, you're a pro. And, but I think the interesting thing, and let's start there, it's anytime I have somebody like you, which sounds that you're doing something really fun, something that you're passionate about, but there's something that definitely not traditional in terms of jobs. I think it's an extra inspiration from somebody out there that, has a dream and wants to pursue it. So let's start there. Was it a dream of yours to become a Pilates instructor? How did you envision yourself as a little girl that, you would tackle life?
Oh, well, as a little girl, I just want to get out of a small town. I would say yes to anything that got me out of a small town. And my parents were very big on you've got to go to college, you get out of the small town. It was. So, and as far as small towns go, it wasn't that small, but it felt very small, and it still does when I go back and visit. So I didn't actually have any real humongous dreams that I thought would actually come true. I just knew I needed to work hard and get out of there. But when I was in college, I got a great job working in retail, and I loved it. I loved working in retail. I worked for the coolest store. I worked for this was not a corporately owned company. It was one of the few boutique stores that still were in existence that would be in big fancy malls. They had one in Vegas, and I was in Orange County. They had several in LA, and it was just so cool to work at a place that celebrities would come to when we were trendsetters when it comes to jewelry and purses and great giftware. And so I actually thought, when I got that job, I was I'm going to work here forever. I'm going to be in fashion. I'm going to become a buyer someday. This is going to be my thing. That's what I thought. So when I graduated college, all of my friends moved. They got married and they moved away. And I was I am not here for a very expensive husband. I'm here to go to an education. And I loved my job. So I just I stuck around and found myself kind of without friends in a town that I wasn't new to. I lived there for 4 years, but it felt like I was a new kid in town because I had to start all over. And this girl invited me to a Pilates class, and I was that is some BS infomercial workout. Can't do what it says it's going to do. But I wanted a friend. So this little part of me was you should go because you want a friend. So I go to this class thinking I'll never have to go again. We'll become friends and we'll do other things. And in that class, I felt parts of my body I never felt before. And I studied kinesiology and biology. So it's not like I wasn't aware of the body. But I felt parts of my body I never felt before. And I couldn't articulate it then, but I actually felt what it was like to just be in my body, to quiet the mind and be in my body, not thinking about all the other things, right? And so I got to work that day and I changed everyone's schedule so I can go to Pilates every single day. And I got a membership at a studio that had multiple locations. I could go every single day. The more I went to Pilates, the more I discovered different things about myself, and the more confident I got, and the more I just had so much energy. I was taking such care of myself. And I had, in one class, I heard my little voice in my head go, "You don't have to live here anymore." And I was oh, where did that come from? And I went to work that day, and a girl that had the same job as me in a different location was "Hey, I put my 2-week notice in." And I was "Oh, I'm going to put in for a transfer." And immediately called my boss and I said, "Can I have their job?"
Oh.
transfer. So I transferred because I was like, I need a change, right? And when I changed towns, I met a Pilates instructor. Was like, you should be a Pilates instructor. And I was like, I can do that. It was this weird thing. And I hope that you don't have to become a Pilates instructor, guys. You can hear this. Someone told me I could be something, and no one had ever told me that before. Like I just did it. I was. It sounds so dumb. Like, of course I can do something like that. But in my brain, I graduated college and I had a good job, in air quotes, good job. I had a salary, I had vacation time, I had health insurance, like all the things that people, all the adults in the world tell you to do. I did it. I could pay my bills. I lived in LA. I thought I made it. I was there. And so then I started becoming a Pilates instructor, thinking, well, it'll pay for my expensive hobby. It'll pay for my hobby. And then, Leticia, I got so busy in 2008 teaching Pilates part time. I had to quit my real job during the
Wow.
recession. Yes, everyone, so that I could have a day off. And that is kind of how, like, that is the genesis of how we got here, like the first domino of how we got here.
Well, very interesting, and a few interesting things you mentioned that I want to kind of hone in. But the main one being the little voice telling me you should do the, like I think that little voice is in everybody's soul. Let's call it the soul, the inner voice, whatever it is that people call it. Some people call it God speaking to you. But tell us a little bit more. Like, have you ever had like? It sounds like you follow your intuition.
Yeah.
And in following your intuition, you kind of crafted more, maybe a life more aligned to what your makes you happy.
Yeah, I think first of all, I think everyone has intuition, and the reason why some of us don't realize it is that it hits us over the head a little harder if we don't listen. So, that like I'll say, like there was one time my inside was like, make a left hand turn. I was like, why would I turn left here? I'd have to make another turn, and I ignored it, and then I made a left hand turn and got into a collision. Right. So like I just made it when my inner voice had said it, but I didn't listen. So like sometimes we have it, but we negotiate with it, or we get in arguments with it, or we think that's silly, that's stupid, that doesn't work. Who could do that? So I will say, the point that I was hearing that voice and actually listening to it, there's several years before that of me kind of ignoring it, and my health declined and my friendships declined. And I kind of like, I mean, I found myself in a town without friends. It's not like every single person I went to college with left, but I had not been paying attention to my intuition of reaching out to people and connecting with people and not overworking. And so really being alone was like,
Mhm.
okay, we're going to hit you over the head now to get your
Mhm.
attention. So I will just say we all have it, but it does take time to be still and not overthink so much. And I think the other thing that I will say that I've done consistently when I've listened to my intuition is not try to reason with it, like get logic around it. I think we're like, well, why would I say that? Why would that thought come to my head? But I love it here. I like we try to like come up with all these different reasons why whatever we heard in our intuition, why that's crazy or wouldn't work. And really I would just
Mm.
challenge people, like when you hear it, just give it time to just go, oh, that's interesting. Tell me more. And so because I had been practicing Pilates and practicing this time being in my body and not thinking about everything else, just that 1 hour, 5 days a week, doing my mat Pilates, I was practicing listening to my body, listening to what's going on, listening to what was easy, what was hard. And so when I had that thought, I was like, oh, I know this voice. And
Mm.
I didn't go, that's weird. I was just like, interesting thought. And then I go to work, and because I had paid attention to it, I was able to see the opportunity that was in front of me, which was this opportunity to move. And so I think a lot of times we're just like so busy going, oh, that's a silly thought. Or unfortunately, we share it with people who whose fear of losing us causes them to like crap on our intuition, and then we'd stop listening to ourselves.
Mm, very powerful. Thank you for that. And so basically, and I share a little bit on the bio before you really started. Like you hear Pilates like now very often, and I'm going to Pilates, but I do remember was like, what is that? Like you don't even know. You started very early on, so you also not only recognize that it's something that you enjoy doing for yourself, but that there was a trend that this was going to become something bigger. And then I guess you saw the opportunity to start the online catalog and all that. So why don't you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah. So, Mr. Pilates, Joe Pilates, he came to the US with his method in the 1920s. And so, but he called it contrology. Now, his students would go, oh, I'm going to Pilates. And when he passed in the late 70s, then, his students were the ones keeping Pilates alive. And then there was a big lawsuit on whether or not you can call what you were doing Pilates. So the thing is that Pilates didn't really get to have its name until 2000. So we've only actually had people freely being able to say that they're Pilates instructor for 25 years. So yes, I feel like I was very lucky to be on the early end of the industry, but it has been around so much longer than I've even been alive, right?
Mhm.
So I think that that is really cool. I also want to say like um, I didn't want to do an online catalog and I didn't want to teach online classes. I had so much fear around what people would think and what people would say and like would I ruffle feathers and all this stuff. And you can hopefully hear yourself in this situation. Anytime we want to do something that's different in an industry that we're in, we start to worry about what will people think. So it was not normal for someone like me who at the time I've been teaching for several years. And yes, I had sat in with one of Joe Ply's clients, but there were people, we called them elders. They have been teaching longer than me, 20 years. They went through the lawsuit. Like they went through the war and the fight. And here I was, this like baby instructor going, I'm going to have a YouTube channel. And so I had all this fear around what would people think and how would I be perceived? And my husband was like, I don't really care about them. He said, all I know is no one is actually doing it. When I look up
Mhm.
Pilates, there's not a lot of videos and there's not a lot of information. This is back in like 2014. And so he's like, you should do it because we have the ability to do it. You should do it. And so that I kind of did it kicking and screaming.
Mhm. Well,
Well, I
well,
put
but
it
that's
out
good. You
there.
follow his intuition.
I did. I did. I did not follow my own.
Yeah.
My own was that voice inside, like being raised not to offend others and to not step on other people's toes and like make sure that everyone gets invited to the party. Like I was kind of just like waiting for other people to do it. And he was just like, no, we're just going to do it. They can do it too. That's okay.
Mhm.
And that was
Mhm.
really helpful because I was like, oh, I can do this and it actually doesn't stop anyone else from doing it.
Mhm. That interesting thought. Interesting thought. Yeah, you felt you were more like being diplomatic, and you wanted to make sure nobody got offended. And did anybody get offended? By the
No,
way, were your fears in a way validated or not?
I mean, if they did, they never told me. So there's that.
That there you
But
go.
yeah, isn't it
That's a
funny?
good thing. So
It's
you embark on
kill
this
ourselves.
adventure with your husband as well, where you collaborate. Are you collaborators? He's the other co-founder.
Yes, he is the other
Okay.
co-founder. He is, and we work together and we work from home together. We're a very weird couple. No, everyone shouldn't do it. Um,
Yes. Yes.
I highly recommend like it's not for everyone to work with their partner and it's not for everyone to work with their partner at home. You do have to like have really good communication skills and not take things personally.
Yes, yes. Yeah, I work for my father, I work with my brother, my sister-in-law. I have worked with my husband as well, so I totally hear you. But when it works, is the best thing ever. That's what I tell people. When it works, is the best thing ever. But make sure everybody knows what their superpower is and what they're bringing to the table. And as long as it's considerably different, what the strengths are for each one and the roles, I think it's a great thing.
Yeah, I agree. Anyway, both of us, our sisters work for us. Our brothers don't.
That's
And
good.
they're lovely
Interesting.
people and they're so good at what they do. And it's okay.
And that's fine, perfectly fine. And so you, of course, we're gonna have your webpage on the show notes. But also, I mean, you are so much more than just the online catalog. I know you have a podcast. If you want to talk about that, and you do retreats, I mean, you really made this a full-blown business, successful business.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, I think for anyone listening, I hope that it can be overwhelming. You go, wow, she does this and does this. Like I do all these things. I didn't start out doing all those things. I just started out teaching Pilates. And
Mhm.
then because people are asking me certain questions, I started making more content. So that's when I became someone who coached Pilates instructors on their business. And then
Mm.
the more I did that, the more that people were like, oh, I'd love to have a way of learning more from you. So I started traveling the world to help other people with their business. And in doing that and still teaching Pilates, we're like, oh, I want to go on a retreat. So then I had enough people to take on a retreat. So everything is a layered process. And so now when you and I are talking, yes, there's a podcast, there's a coaching business, there's a retreat business, an online platform, but they all started staggered as audience demanded it, as we had the time and capability and capacity, and also in alignment with like what did we want to do. My husband and I
Mhm.
love to travel, which is why we actually say yes to retreats and say yes to teaching places around the world. If I didn't love to travel, I would do these things on Zoom and it would be fine.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
they all kind of like staggered. The podcast came about because something I often hear is like, well, you're so confident and everything just comes to you because you're so confident. And I was like, that's really interesting what people perceive of someone who is taking action. I don't actually see people taking action as the most confident people. I see them as people who are just brave enough to do the thing that scares them. And so I
Mm.
wanted to have a podcast where I could actually bring people on to explain like to demystify like everyone starts from uncertainty. Nothing that lasts a long time is like, a home run on the first try. Everyone is doing things imperfectly and learning along the way. So why on earth are you waiting? So
Mhm.
like waiting until you feel ready, or waiting until someone deems you ready, or waiting until someone thinks that you finally have made it, you're worthy of it. No, being it till you see it is like acting like you're the person who's already done the thing. And what would that person do? And we got to start that after
Mm.
the pandemic. So that's super fun for us. And my husband, it's something we also do together. So it's really quite hilarious. I was like, okay. He's like, oh, yeah, I'll do this part. And I was like, oh, we'll just do it together. Why not? We do everything together.
Well, there you go. That is not a bad formula. And the name of the podcast is Be It Till You See It.
Yeah.
I like the name. I like the name. And is there any, have there been any like consistent nuggets of wisdom coming out of the podcast? Like in my case, I'll give it out right
Yeah.
now, but like and I'll ask you this question, but it's this podcast is about what makes you tick. And one of the things that has surprised me of how many people have said curiosity. Like you never imagine that that's going to be an answer, and then it's like a very repeated answer, And so that has been one of my learning points from the podcast. Is like stay curious, keep curiosity as part of your life because it seems to be a big driver.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think I that's probably why I like to even use Pilates as a daily practice, because it's like it allows me to be curious. Like, oh, I'm moving slower than I did yesterday. Oh, I have more. Oh, I'm sore today. Why? Like, what's going on? It helps you. Oh, I didn't eat enough. Like I didn't sleep enough. Like being curious is one of the coolest things you could ever do for yourself. One of the consistent things I've gotten on the Be It Pod is actually, and it's my least favorite thing when they say it, but it's journaling. Like
Okay.
journaling is so key, but I'm a perfectionist and an overachiever in recovery. So I'm always like, okay, but what do you journal? What are you journaling? And so what I found is people either like a free flow thought, so nothing, just like writing down what's on their mind and clearing out their mind, and other people like a prompt about gratitude and what they're grateful for. So I will say, like, it sounds to me that the people who are doing the thing that scares them, doing the thing that they follow their dreams, they all have a connection to themselves through journaling. So
Mm.
that has been really consistent. The other thing that I have also come up was like every single person who I've had on my show has always thanked people who support them on the journey. And those people are rarely friends and family. They're often people that they hired and
Mm.
invested in. And
Mhm.
so I will just say, like, I wasn't someone who always had money. Like even when I was starting my business, a lot of time I was taking any money I made and putting it back in the business. And, so I didn't always have money to invest in coaching and in experts. But we live in a world today where all these experts are giving their information away for free on a podcast. You're already listening to a podcast. So you already have the app. You can actually just start to Google and search around and see who actually like talks like that in a way that makes you feel seen. And then I just made those people's podcasts. Like I made that like my business time. I'm working on my business. And so that's another consistent thing is like each person who's gone where they want to go has invested in a support system for themselves, because your friends and family, even if you work with them, can only go so far.
Absolutely. That I can totally. I always joke around with over 300 episodes published, how many, like, let's say strangers or acquaintances, or not maybe your closest friends, tune in and like say this episode was great. I find that sometimes like, hey, did you listen to this episode? And people, yeah, I listened to it. And then eventually they do, and they say that was great. And I say, I've been telling you for like a year about that episode, but I don't know why. It's like maybe they listen to us often, so they say we need a break from them, and they don't tune in. I don't know.
Well, I also think that like our families and friends really do mean well, but I had a couple that Brad and I used to actually coach with. I was like, we're investing in this because they work together, and we need to work under a coach who works with their partner. Like, I think we need that. And there was a time when she was growing and he wasn't. And so they were really open and honest with that. She's like, I had to keep growing, and I couldn't worry about him because I figured he will either want to keep up or we're going to grow apart. But I'm not going to be the person telling him he has to keep up with me. And I think with family members, sometimes when we tell them we're doing something, we're excited, sometimes they get in their head about what does that mean for them, right? Like, whenever I tell a family member, oh, we're traveling, she's like, oh, well, you're not coming here. And it's like, right, I'm not, you're right, I'm not. But that's not what the response should have been. The response should have been like, oh, where
Where?
are you going? I wonder if I should travel there too so I can go with you. Like that should be the response. Or
Yes.
congratulations, because it's not about you. But I think a lot of times friends and family members, we're either so close they don't want to take more advice from us because that would mean that they don't know it. Or two, they think that if they listen to that, then everything's going to change. And people don't like change. But the one thing that we're all guaranteed to experience is change. Like that's just the guarantee, right? Death, taxes, and change.
Right. I totally agree. That's very deep, and I know it's interesting because you're not the first person. Like I've had this conversation with on the podcast where they say, my spouse hasn't supported my book, or my and they love me, but I just don't understand why I cannot get them on board with it, and that kind of feeling that you almost have to find your tribe somewhere else to keep
Yes.
going. I almost like, even with the podcast, people say 300. And when did that happen? You go, well, it's been 5 years. And that's why you still have it. Say, yeah, I do. Because I barely talk about it anymore sometimes with people that are closer to me just because of that. But also understanding that that doesn't mean they don't love you or not, don't
Yeah.
support you. It's just different. And as long as you find the people that can support you in the journey, to your point of the growth, I think that's really part of the secret.
I love that. And I also think that I heard this from Brene Brown during my time of like listening to podcasts that I couldn't afford to hire people, right? And she said, write down the five people in your life whose opinions of you matter. And a lot of us wouldn't actually put some of our family members. Yes, there probably might be one. Like my husband's opinion of me matters to an extent, but like the five people whose opinions of you matter. And then you're actually supposed to tell them, hey, just so you know, you're one of five people who, when you say something, it's weighted differently than when someone else says something. And so I just want you to know that, because if you tell me you love something, it means more than if a listener tells me something or a friend tells me they love it. If you also criticize me, it means more. That doesn't mean I don't want you to do either. You just need to know, right? And so oftentimes our family members either don't know that they mean that much to us, or they really actually don't mean that much to us. And we are taking them not participating. And I don't mean that in a bad way, like they don't mean that much to you, but their opinions don't matter that much. And so sometimes we get hung up and we start going, why don't they listen? Why aren't they supporting this thing? But if we actually look at that sheet of five, they weren't on it. So does it really matter? Right?
Mm.
Or they might not be actually who you started this for. You started this for other people and you thought they would be great at listening to it, but they're not there yet. They're not
Mm.
seeking that out yet. And it's like you can take a horse to water, but you can't make it drink. Until they're thirsty, it's not going to work. And so we have to know that it's actually, and this is something to trust, like it's not our responsibility. Like in my industry, people are taught very quickly now. I had to go through a 9-month training plus other trainings, right? And now they're trained in a weekend. We're an unregulated industry, so no one knows. And I posted
Mm,
something today and I wrote like, your words actually don't teach as much as the exercises can. And so our job as a teacher is to choose the exercise someone needs rather than finding a good cue or sentence that inspires them to be stronger. It's not going to work. And all
mm,
the responses I've gotten so far are people come up with like other cues, like, oh, I say it like this. Oh, I say it like this. And I'm like,
mm,
that's great. Your words are wonderful, but that's not actually going to keep them having the connection. And I could get frustrated, but to be honest, they're not ready to hear what I'm trying to say. I'm trying to help them be a better teacher. And where their head is at is, I have to come up with a better cue. Well, I cannot force them to be where I'm at. But there are other people who are actually exhausted from talking too much. They're exhausted from repeating themselves. They're exhausted trying to get people's shoulders out of their ears. And so they want to come to my thing. And that's where my focus and energy has to be. And I think it's really hard as creators and those of you who are listening who are like starting something, you kind of are like, yeah, but they know me, so I need them to support me. No, you don't. You need the person that you created this for to support you. And so you actually have to get yourself and your ideas in front of them. And that's the hardest part for all of us. It's like, well, where are they? Because I don't know them yet. Well,
mm.
you get to go know them, you get to be curious, as you mentioned.
I love it. I love it. And I think that people that are on a certain journey can recognize that. People doing Pilates, they probably tune into your tutorial videos and your content because you are more than just the good words. And I noticed that on your webpage you also have, let's call the merch section, and the slogan or it's a lot of perfect is boring.
Yes. And it's backwards
So,
on the,
and it's backwards. Yes, it is true. So why don't you share a little bit about what's your goal? I love it. It's almost like a big statement.
yeah. So, it kind of, so there was a time in my life where I was raised a perfectionist. That was for sure. Like I got accolades and achievements. If I did things perfectly and I made a mistake, I'd get in trouble, right? So like I was raised to be an oldest daughter, by the way. So like there's all of that. So raised to be perfect, and I did everything perfectly and found myself like with someone who checked all the perfect boxes of being a partner and was unhappy. And when I left that person, I was without address. I was couch surfing, and not sleeping in my car, thankfully, but like definitely not where I thought I should be at the age of 30 years old. Right. And I remember a girlfriend was like, oh, you can stay at our house. It was this beautiful house in this really expensive part of LA. Like, I mean, my goodness, if I could have figured a way to tolerate it, I would have stayed there for the 3 months because like who wouldn't want to live a mile and a half run to the beach? Like just, and she cooked dinner every night and like just perfect,
Mm,
right?
mm,
White couches and beautiful floors and just the perfectly made guest bedroom. It was so perfect. I felt uncomfortable. And I
mm,
realized I was like, perfect is very boring. In fact, it's also stressful. I don't want to be here. I can't relax. I'm afraid that my socks are too dirty because if you take your shoes off outside, but I'm actually afraid that my socks are too dirty to be on these floors because I'm wearing them all day. Like I should have different socks on. Like I started to like make up all these things.
yeah.
And so in that moment, I was like, oh, no, nobody wants to be friends with perfect.
Mm,
I don't even know if I could sit on this couch. What if I leave a mark? Like she gave me chocolate
right.
ice in a bowl. I was like, you trust me with this? I have to get on the floor. I literally sat on the floor. She's like, what are you doing? I'm like, I cannot eat this ice cream on your beautiful couch. Like, I don't even know how to get these things out. And so I kind of started going, well, if this is what I've been trying to achieve, I've been trying to achieve perfection in everything I do, and now I'm realizing it's making me so uncomfortable. What if I wasn't perfect? What would that look like? And it looked like just putting things out there before they were fully ready, just saying yes before I really understood how I was going to get there, trying out new things without really being like having done all the research. Um, all this different stuff. And I realized that my business, my personal business, started to grow because I wasn't trying to get everything ready before I released it. I was just going, hey guys, I'm doing this thing. And people go, oh, I want to do that thing. Great, here. Like I wasn't trying to make sure I had every single thing ready to go. And yes, there's a time and a place when your business gets to a place where like people want my websites to work. People want to go through a Stripe transaction fee versus just like giving me a check. But there are ways to take messy action now. And I started to realize that like by taking messy action, by not waiting for it to be perfect, I was getting feedback quicker. I was hearing questions people had sooner. I was able to adapt and recreate and redescribe what I was doing. And my business went faster and I made the money I made. And it's quite the motto. And every time I start to go into that perfectionist tendency, that's when everything slows down. I get frustrated. I start to micromanage things. No one likes it. It falls flat. I'm frustrated. So the more I can just go, okay, done is better than perfect. Done is better than perfect. That is really where it come from. And so when we made merch about it, we put it on backwards so that it was like even more. And it's quite funny because I wear that hat sometimes through TSA and they're looking at me like,
What is it?
what does that say? And I'm like, don't look at me like that. This is TSA. You're making me uncomfortable.
Well, I definitely was one of the things that like a spotted when doing the research about the interview. So I think it's great. Congrats on that.
Thanks.
So, I mean, we've spoken about so many things, Lesley. Is there anything particular, any initiatives, any exciting thing? I mean, everything that you're doing sounds exciting. I know you have a retreat in Cambodia coming up.
Yes, we have a house in Cambodia. Come. You don't have to know
Well,
Pilates to come. I'll teach you. And you also don't have to do the Pilates part. You could just come for the retreat to see the temples. So yeah, you can go. That's crowsnestretreats.com. We do it once a year at our house there. And I did that because it's unlike anything and how most of us live, and it's very important to get out of your routines to see what you miss and what you don't miss, and be awe-inspired by 1,000-year-old temples and be in a jungle and just see what you can be happy with. So it's quite fun, and it's a really enjoyable experience. If you are intrigued about Pilates, if you go to onlinepilatesclasses.com, that's where all of our free tutorials are. We have an app. It's free to watch all the tutorials. And if you want to reach out to our team about free classes that we have, we can also provide links on that based on like where you're at in your practice. But really, I just want more bodies doing Pilates. And I'd love to hear how this helped you.
this is great. Well, it sounds great. Definitely curious about it. I have never, believe it or not, done Pilates. I consider myself very active person, but and I have tons of friends that have done it. I never myself got to do it. So maybe I'm gonna check out your one of those
Yes.
tutorials, see if I try
Yes.
it out.
If
And
you've
that
ever done Pilates, we created something called fullbodyin15.com. And what it is a workshop where I literally break down each exercise and tell you exactly how to do it. So you get to nerd out and understand it like from like a fresh perspective. And then we have the workout together. So you learn the moves and then we do the workout. The workout's 15 minutes. It's a full body workout in 15 minutes. It's perfect for beginners. It's really great. And you get to like kind of understand the why behind what you're doing so you don't feel like a fish out of water.
sounds fantastic. So I definitely will do that. And, I thank you. I mean, not only you have raised awareness about Pilates, you've inspired us about, how that following the intuition can take you to a very fulfilled life. And also a little bit of the behind the scenes of all these things that we've discussed about, friends and family support to like the wisdom in recognizing sometimes that those traits like, okay, yeah, I'm a perfectionist. How can I tame that need to be perfectionist to live a fuller life? I mean, I'm not surprised you're a mindset coach because it sounds like you're a great coach. So I invite everybody to check Lesley's page and you have a new fan, Lesley. So I thank you so much for sharing all that wisdom with us.
Thank you so much, Leticia, for having me on. This was so fabulous. This was a great conversation.
Thank you so much. And to all of you out there, I hope you are a little bit more inspired today by this incredible conversation with Lesley. And thank you for tuning in. Bye bye. You've been listening to Back to Basics. You can follow us on Instagram and Facebook. If you haven't yet, subscribe, Rate and review this podcast on Apple Podcast or any of your favorite streaming platforms. This is the best gift you can give us. Join me next week for another Back to Basics conversation. And if you want to find out about other exciting things I'm working on, visit leticialatino.com. Thank you, and until the next time.